Hello, everyone. We are going to continue reading Jack London's White Fang. We're going to do chapters 7 and 8 right now. Chapter 7, Life at Camp. While Kiche was tied by the stick, White Fang ran about the camp. He came to know the ways of the man animals and their godlike powers. When they walked, he got out of their way. When they called, he came. When they were angry, he crouched down. When they commanded him to go, he obeyed. He learned about clubs and flying stones and singing lashes of whips. He belonged to them as all dogs belong to them. But there were days when he crept to the edge of the forest and stood and listened to something calling him far and away. Yet always he returned to whimper softly at Kiche's side. And here we see him taking what looks like a fish. Uh-oh. The curse of his life was Lip Lip. He was a bully, larger, older, and stronger than White Fang. Lip Lip became a nightmare to him. Whenever White Fang slipped away from his mother, Lip Lip appeared. He trailed at White Fang's heels, snarling, picking on him. He would not allow White Fang to play with the other puppies at camp. He waited until no man animals were around. Then he would spring upon White Fang and force a fight. Lip Lip always won. Still, White Fang did not lose his spirit. Instead, he became more savage. He lost his playful puppy-ish ways. He became more cunning in order to survive at camp. Lip Lip kept White Fang from his share of food, so White Fang became a clever thief. He learned to sneak about camp, to know what was going on everywhere, and to avoid Lip Lip. The day came when Gray Beaver untied Kiche from the stick. White Fang was delighted with his mother's freedom. He walked with her joyfully about the camp. As long as he remained close by her side, Lip Lip kept his distance. Later that day, White Fang led his mother, and they strayed off to the edge of the woods. Here we see White Fang, and here we see Lip Lip. Poor White Fang. The stream, the cave, and the quiet forest were calling to him. He wanted her to come. He ran on a few steps, stopped, and looked back. She had not moved. He whined. She only turned her head and gazed back at the camp. There was something calling to him out there in the open. His mother heard it too, but she also heard that other and louder call, the call of the fire and of man. DJ turned and slowly trotted back towards camp. White Fang whimpered. He was only a part-grown puppy. For him, there were still some things stronger than the call of man or of the wild. This was the call of his mother, so he arose and trotted sadly back to camp. But White Fang's time with his mother was short. Gray Beaver was in debt to Three Eagles, who was going away on a trip up the Mackenzie River. Gray Beaver gave him a strip of scarlet cloth, bearskin, and Kiche to pay the debt. White Fang saw his mother taken aboard Three Eagles' canoe and tried to follow her. A blow from Three Eagles knocked him backward to the land. The canoe shoved off. He sprang to the water and swam after her. So here we see White Fang and his mother, and they're kind of looking, and she's looking back at the camp, and he's like, but Mom, let's go. Gray Beaver angrily came after White Fang in a canoe. He reached down and by the nape of the neck lifted him clear of the water. He threw him into the bottom of the canoe and gave him a beating until White Fang could no longer stand. When the canoe touched the shore, Gray Beaver flung White Fang whimpering onto the rocks. Lip Lip now rushed upon him. White Fang was too helpless to defend himself. He would have been badly hurt had Gray Beaver not kicked at Lip Lip, and so White Fang learned that only the gods had the right to punish. That night, White Fang cried for his mother. Gray Beaver, awakened by White Fang's cries, beat him again. He cried no more around the gods, but sometimes he would stray to the edge of the woods by himself and cry out with loud whimpering. For now he was alone. He could have run back to the wild, but the memory of his mother held him to the camp. Sometimes Three Eagles visited the camp with Kiche. So White Fang stayed, always waiting for her. Before long, he had learned how to get along with Gray Beaver. The man animal never petted him, but he fed him and defended him. There we have, looks like Gray Beaver lifting White Fang. Lip Lip, however, kept bullying him. The young dogs followed Lip Lip's lead. White Fang could whip many of them one-on-one, but a fight was a signal for all the young dogs in camp to come running. When White Fang did win, the man animals beat him. This made White Fang more ferocious. He became an outcast and a sneak and a troublemaker. But he learned how to take care of himself in a mass fight. He became cat-like in his ability to stay on his feet. Grown dogs could hurl him backwards, but he always went with his legs under him and his feet to the earth, ready to spring forward or away. White Fang learned to attack quickly. If he could take a dog by surprise, the dog was already half whipped. The pack would not allow White Fang to run with them. White Fang would attack any dog that was alone. The young dogs, except for Lip Lip, became afraid to run by themselves, but the pack would go after White Fang and hunt him as he ran, and lost him through the woods. In time, man and dog both hated White Fang. The tooth of every dog was against him, the hand of every man. He was alert for any attack. There we see the dog surrounding White Fang. He was hated by his own kind and by mankind, but he learned how to survive. He learned to obey the strong and to go after the weak. Gray Beaver was the strong, therefore White Fang obeyed him. But any dog younger or smaller than himself was weak, a thing to be destroyed. He became quicker than the other dogs, swifter of foot, craftier, deadlier, more lean with iron-like muscle. He was more cruel, more ferocious, and more intelligent. He had to become all these things, or he would not have survived in the world in which he found himself. Chapter 8 changes his new laws. In the fall, the summer camp was taken down. The tribe was preparing to go off to the fall hunting ground. White Fang watched it all. When the teepees began to come down and the canoes were loaded at the bank, he understood. He crawled into the dense thicket and waited. He heard Gray Beaver calling him by name, but he did not move. The voices died away and darkness came. For a while, he played among the trees, enjoying his freedom. Then suddenly, he was aware of loneliness. He became frightened. He felt cold. Here, there, here was no warm side of a teepee against which to snuggle. Here was no meat. So we see the men taking down the teepees and folding things up. White Fang had forgotten how to take care of himself. A panic seized him, and he ran madly towards the village. He passed out of the forest and into the moonlit open, but no village greeted his eyes. The man animals had moved on without him. He slunk sadly through the deserted camp, smelling the rubbish heaps. He would have been glad just to hear the rattle of stones being flung his way. He would have been happy to see Gray Beaver. He longed to see Lip Lip and the whole snarling pack again. He came to where Gray Beaver's teepee had stood. There he sat down. He pointed his nose at the moon. With a heartbroken cry filled with loneliness and grief for Kiche, he howled a long wolf howl. His first howl. When daylight came, he plunged back into the forest to search for the trail of the gods. All day he ran. He did not rest. By the middle of the second day, he had been running for 30 hours. He had not eaten in 40 hours, and he was weak with hunger. His handsome coat was draggled. His feet were bruised and bleeding. He had begun to limp. To make it worse, snow had begun to fall. And here we see him howling at the moon. Night had fallen when White Fang limped across a fresh-smelling trail in the snow. He knew it immediately for what it was. He hurried along the trail and came into the new camp. There was Gray Beaver crouching by the fire. White Fang was afraid of the beating he'd get from Gray Beaver, but he also knew how safe and warm he would be near his fire once more, even with the other hated dogs. White Fang crawled slowly towards Gray Beaver, waiting for his punishment. Gray Beaver put out his hand, but he did not hit White Fang. Instead, he offered him a piece of fresh meat. After that, White Fang lay at Gray Beaver's feet, gazing at the fire that warmed him. You see that right there. You see Gray Beaver, you see White Fang. He's still a little pup, his tail between his legs. It's his tail. In December, Gray Beaver went on a journey up the Mackenzie River. Mitsa and Klukuch, Gray Beaver's son and wife, went with him. Gray Beaver drove one sled himself. Mitsa drove a smaller sled with a team of 7 puppies. Most were 9 and 10 months old, but White Fang was only 8 months old. Mitsa looked like his father and had much of his father's wisdom. He was aware that Lip Lip bullied White Fang, but Lip Lip had been another man's dog. His father had done some trading, and now Lip Lip was Mitsa's dog. He placed Lip Lip at the end of the longest rope. This made Lip Lip the leader, but instead of being bully and master of the pack, Lip Lip now found himself hated by the pack. The moment the sled started, the whole team took after Lip Lip in a chase that lasted the whole day. Even though Lip Lip was the head dog, he was no longer leader among the other puppies. White Fang enjoyed the work. He worked hard, learned discipline, and was obedient. Still, he stayed to himself. He had never learned to play. Since Lip Lip no longer ruled the others, White Fang could have become leader of the pack, but he just wanted to be left alone. They knew to get out of his way when he came along. Even the boldest of them would never dare to rob him of his meat. In fact, they quickly ate their own meat for fear that he would take it away from them. White Fang knew the law well. Oppress the weak, obey the strong. And here we see Mitsa and the sled and the dogs. The months passed by. White Fang grew stronger with the long hours on the trail and the steady toil at the sled. He had come to know the world as a fierce and brutal place. He had no love for Gray Beaver. He respected him and obeyed him, but he felt no love. If Gray Beaver had given him a kind word or a gentle touch, White Fang might have felt something deeper for this god. But Gray Beaver did not pet him nor speak kind words. It was not his way. So White Fang knew nothing of the kindness a man's hand might offer. Besides, he did not like the hands of the man animals. He did not trust them. It was true they sometimes gave him meat, but more often they gave hurt. Hands were things to keep away from. They hurled stones, held clubs and sticks and whips. In strange villages that they came to, White Fang stayed away from hands, especially those of children who could pinch and hurt. In a village at the Great Lake, White Fang learned a new law: never bite one of the gods. A boy was chopping frozen moose meat. White Fang stopped and began to eat the small pieces that flew off in the snow. And here we see the boys petting White Fang. The boy laid down his axe, picked up a club, and chased White Fang between two teepees. He trapped White Fang against a high earth bank. White Fang was furious. He had done no wrong. One thing led to the next, and the boy somehow found himself on his back. His club hand was bleeding where White Fang had bitten him. Then White Fang knew he had done wrong. White Fang fled away to Gray Beaver and crouched behind his legs. When the boy's family came, they demanded that the dog be punished. But Gray Beaver, Mitsaw, and Kloo Kooch defended him. White Fang had learned that to bite a god was wrong, that not all gods were allowed to punish him. Before the day was out, White Fang learned a new law: protect your own. Mitsaw was gathering firewood in the forest when he was attacked by a gang of boys. They were led by the boy who had been bitten. White Fang looked on. One of his own gods was being hurt. Anger filled him and he jumped to Mitsaw's defense. 5 minutes later, the gang of boys had fled. When Mitsaw told his story in camp, Gray Beaver had ordered meat to be given to White Fang. White Fang knew he was being rewarded for his protection of the pack. And here we see Mitsaw on the ground, and so we see White Fang leaping at those boys, going, "Hey, back off. That's my human." In the days that followed, White Fang learned more about protecting his pack and his pack's property. Gray Beaver trained him to protect them from thieves. He became a guard dog, and no man and no other dog could get past him. In return, White Fang was rewarded with food and the warmth of the fire. The bonds between man and dog grew stronger as the months went by. White Fang did his duty to protect his own. He felt awe and respect for the gods, but he did not feel love. He did not know what love was. The memory of his mother, Iche, slowly left him. His bond to the man animals became stronger than a need for freedom in his old home in the wild. So there we are for that. We have done chapter 7 and 8. Join us again next time. We'll do the next two chapters. So far, we've seen him grow a lot and kind of learning all these harsh laws. So thank you so much for watching. Bye now.